Pledge allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we just remain standing for a minute to have a moment of silence to remember all of our first responders that we have lost since the last time we were together? Thank you. So sorry. I did that last month.
Jude, just for the record, there is nobody online right now except you, and the commissioners present are William Burke, Joseph Alsaki, Dorothea Brennan, Beverly Venier, and Rob Cinto.
Thank you.
Okay. Can I get a motion for approval of the minutes for the regular meeting, February 10th, 2022?
So moved.
Motion's made by Commissioner Brennan. Can I get a second?
Yes. Beverly.
Beverly.
Shut it out. Jude's got it. Oh.
Yep.
So-
All those in
Wait,
favor?
wait, one notation.
Yep.
The misspellings in my name have been corrected.
Well, that I wouldn't have caught, but
Well, it's my name.
I know.
I got the extra E. No, 'cause my parents had spelled it though.
Okay.
No, it's fine. No, usually it's just with the L-Y.
Right, yes, yes.
Which is right.
Then the old one. No, this is correct. I
Okay.
think the old
Good to
one is
know.
right.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor that's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Reports, chairman's report. I have two quick things that I just want to bring up. One of them is, Chief, I've been watching the Fair TV.
You have.
I have been. Because that's what I do. And
Why, you need a life.
exactly,
Sorry.
He must not be sleeping.
not.
What time do you see?
It's not live. However, though, I am quite impressed that when they ask you a question, that you're not.
I turned to him for the answer.
No, you're not turning to anybody, and I've seen that before with other presentators and past administration where they did not have the answer. And I don't know if some of them are trying to get you to answer a different way, but
Yeah.
the same question sometimes is brought up, rephrased, and your answers seem to be consistent.
I try to be.
Yes,
Yeah.
so
I may not be right, but at least I'm consistently wrong.
that's fine.
But yeah, can I speak to that issue?
Yes,
I think that, the deputy and others prepare the budget, and we work on it, beginning in October. And by the time we get to hearings, there are, not to be quite honest, there's some mad scrambles in the last minute. Is like, I forgot to look this up. But, I know that, and the deputy prepares a book with all of the justification and rationale behind every dime that's in the budget. And it's a good system. So we're fortunate we have a very good team.
Yeah, I was even checking to see if you were wearing an in-ear monitor.
The deputy is just off camera, by the way.
Right, and I would like to point out, because I think I'm the only one left who knows this, is when these two joined and got active, hello, Alex, and he just sent me a message that Bill Tuttle's on his way.
Okay, good. I just texted Bill.
Yeah, he's on his way. None of that documentation or support or the separation of accounts so that you could actually manage the budget existed when the chief and deputy chief got here. And so they have built the entire foundation of information in order to build it. And nobody, what little existed, nobody in the department knew.
And we came from budget prep backgrounds in our previous career. So we, were fully versed and understood, what level of detail was necessary. As a matter of fact, we would prefer more detail and more sub accounts. We made that pitch and we're, pushed back. It was clear, but we'd like to be able to identify every penny in the budget and where it's coming from and what source documents are available to back that up. There is a lot of science behind it. but there's a little art too. And, that's hard to explain sometimes. It's like, this we can say exactly, there are this many people, they earn this many days, and this is what it costs. And then this is some of the art behind, well, I can take this instead of that benefit, and it's using 3-year averages to come up with that. So, but thank you for acknowledging.
The other thing I got under the chairman's report, for the commissioners, I sent out an email to everybody, just that if you know, even in advance, you can't make a meeting, please let Sheila or staff know so that we know in advance, if we're gonna have a quorum, because if we're not gonna have a quorum, then it's only fair to let the chief, the deputy, and the rest of the commissioners know that they don't have to show up.
It got a little dicey last.
Yes, and I apologize for that. I apologize to Liam over here, because the last meeting I told him, don't worry, I've only missed one meeting in 7 years. And then the next meeting I miss, and then he's like, yeah, but I did give him a heads up on it.
Right.
So with that, I have nothing else under the chairman's report. So chief, you're up for the next 15 minutes.
I will 15. I'll try to leave some.
I'm
time
trying,
for
Joe.
deputy.
Good morning,
only
Joe.
have-
Oh, someone-
No, you're good.
Jude, did you
So
have a
I have
question?
3 main items that I want to talk about tonight. First, testing. We are, as you know, continuing our testing. We're very anxious about our recruitment efforts and the lack of candidates. We started the year after a month of application period with only, I think, 50 candidates that had applied. By the last day of the regular application period, we had 200 candidates. And at that same time at the end of the application period in 2020, we had 800 candidates. So, clearly the interest in work in general is down. Gas prices may have changed that. And inflation will change that and drive people back to work. But we're very surprised. We extended the application period for a year. We reach out to,
No, a week.
excuse me, a week.
I was gonna say what?
Well, we were considering that if we didn't do better, we would end up testing every year in order to refresh the list. We reached out to all the member departments. We used the video, the ad, and other materials to make sure that it got out as best we could in social media and regular media. The chief, New Haven, maintains a broad database of everybody who has applied for a firefighting job in New Haven, and he has a list of about 1,200 candidates. And I reached out to him that Friday, the regular last day before we extended a week, and he mailed out to 1,200 candidates. And we think there's a lot of diversity in that. And typically New Haven, Bridgeport, Hartford have a lot of diversity in their list. So he mailed that all of our material out to 1,200 applicants. And a week later, we had 600 candidates.
Yay.
So of that 600, 500 have successfully completed all of and submitted all of the documentation. We do know that there are a number of parents and family members that say, you ought to do this and I will pay for the application, and then they never complete it. So there is typically a drop off like we experienced. But when we only start with 600, a drop off of 100 is pretty significant. But we have 500 candidates. There are 35 women in that. That's 7% of the total. They don't collect any demographics in the application that's collected at the time of testing. So we'll have a better understanding of other demographics when we complete the testing. Testing will begin next week. We have written tests and we will host. It's all being done online. So there are a number of people, 50 out of the 500, that have said that they don't have technology to do it remotely. So us in East Hartford will host some in-person testing for those that have requested it. And then after that, we will do the orientation sessions In particular, based on what we've learned in the last three interview processes where candidates come in and lack of preparation and understanding of the process has caused some to do very poorly in that interview process. We want to make sure that, for the sake of a little bit of coaching of how to interview, we feel that we can help candidates that are new to the process, that don't come from volunteer fire departments in particular, that don't have family or friends in the business. They tend to do less well than those that do. So we will run those orientation. And then after that, as you know, we don't require CPAT until, unless you're going to qualify for going to the academy. So we will make sure that we get CPAT, and Bridgeport will open their CPAT center as well. They have a CPAT facility, and anybody can go there and train. So that's the lay of the land with testing. And we will be back in June to do the interview process. We expect the list to be promulgated by iOS by June 1st. And then we will ask the commission to provide 2 members along with 3 of our members and the deputy, which will to conduct the interviews, and we'll have a local list.
Okay, before the chief moves on to the next item, anybody got any questions?
Yes.
Richard?
One, just a statement, if you want a commissioner as part of that coaching interviewing, I'm happy to
Thank you.
volunteer time.
Yep.
2, I don't remember, we were looking at what cost of getting our own CPAT equipment would be. Did we ever figure out?
Yeah, so we did look at that, and it's upwards of $50,000-$60,000. And the complete package, we can get it down to, use some of our local stuff. We can get the number down significantly. Bridgeport has a facility. We just didn't, you'll see in our capital budget, we're well above what we typically ask for by almost 200%. So we didn't do it this year.
Just one question, chief. The Bridgeport Testing Center, the CPAT Center?
Yeah.
Is that a,
Training center, not testing.
well, it's just training for CPAT.
Correct.
It is
They don't
not-
test. They
don't
one
test.
place in the state of Connecticut to test, and that's the state.
That's so we're still, okay, that's.
So we gotta look at transportation.
Right. So the other thing, the state is, and we've, everybody has pressured the state to develop a indoor year-round CPAT testing facility. Departments have offered space or land. And the state has looked at empty warehouse space. It's gone all the way up to the commissioner. We haven't got any closer to doing that, but yeah, getting to and from and access to CPAT is an important, or it is an obstacle for some.
Richard?
Yes, I understand you guys have an active recruitment efforts in Fairfield High School.
Yes.
I'm not sure what ward, but what about other
Yes.
neighboring schools like Stanford or Bridgeport? Because there's some Bridgeport kids that come over to Fairfield schools, and there are at least 3, at least in Fairfield, that are not heading on going to college. I
Right.
don't know what their intentions are, but I don't know what efforts.
Do we make copies of this? It's in the packet.
It's in the packet.
Okay.
So in the packet, and, the deputy can provide a little bit more, but, we have been working, part of recruitment is, developing interest in fire service careers.
Yeah, two of the same ones.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
thank you.
Part of recruitment is, to get people who are qualified, capable, age appropriate, to take out an application. The other part of that is grooming younger people, and exposing them to career paths that don't include college. To that extent, we engaged the 2 high schools and a couple of facilities in Bridgeport and Wakeman's Boys and Girls Club to have a open discussion about how to expose middle school and high school kids to public safety or trades, other career opportunities for those not going to college. So we do have a career expo that is on April 28th at Wakeman's. We have reached out to Bridgeport, and there's a couple of organizations, and I can't remember what Amy Marshall, what she represents, but there's a couple in Bridgeport that have expressed interest. We've reached out to the electrical workers, some contractors, UI, Eversource, the military, AMR, and so it'll be well attended. This is the first for the town of Fairfield, and we expect that we'll learn a little bit and we'll continue to grow. The deputy's been to both high schools for career days or career fairs.
With some young firefighters, including Caitlin was at Ludlow. At least they had role models and they were asking questions. It was very good.
It just appears as if you guys will have better luck in inner cities because a lot of children in Fairfield, about 95% of them are intending on going to college, right? That's generally the path. As opposed to other areas, it's not necessarily that way. So that's why. I mean, we have basically the cities in Connecticut, that's, issues in terms of what their future looks like, as opposed to the town, right? It's huge disparity.
And I don't think you were on the commission when, we started the conversation, but, the city of Bridgeport, has a very aggressive recruitment program for the fire department. They hire 6 people for months on end to do recruitment. We asked to partner with them and they said, no. They said, you know what, we want to recruit Bridgeport. We don't want to confuse the message. Thank you, but no, thank you. And, they have a mission. And their mission is to recruit for the city of Bridgeport. But I was very taken aback by the.
Are they successful?
Huh?
Do you know they're successful?
Yeah, they have been successful.
Oh, they have.
Yeah, they have been successful, but they.
Given the option, where do you think those firefighters would want to fight? Bridgeport or Fairfield?
Fairfield.
So why would they?
No, I'm not sure. That's not true. That's so. There is a cultural issue about coming out of the city that you grew up in, and especially in an urban environment, and coming to Fairfield. We try in our discussions over at Bridgeport Fire Headquarters with their recruitment team, a African-American woman is already been promoted to lieutenant, fairly on the younger side, probably been on the job maybe 10 years. She went down to Greenwich and, because she thought, benefits, pay, life expectancy, all those other things. She went there. They said, so she went to the personnel department and they said, that's great. We'd love to have you. You'll be our first. And she goes, maybe not. And she stayed in Bridgeport. So, I mean, there is a hurdle, a cultural hurdle that,
Sure, I can understand that.
Listen, everyone has a price.
Yeah.
Well, why
Everyone has a
would,
price.
so
So,
how
no,
do you
what it is-
rationale them not partnering with you in that case?
Sorry?
How do you rationale Bridgeport not accepting the?
Civil service is it's not necessarily the fire department, it's civil service, and they are very parochial. They're very rules driven. It is outside the norm for them, and they just weren't interested.
Excuse me, so they've hired 3 people to do their recruitment, correct?
Yeah.
And how many have we hired to do our recruitment?
Oh, we.
You're looking at-
No.
And with the population difference is probably what, 150 to 50,000? So
60. Yeah. So.
So
yeah.
you could justify hiring, if they're hiring 3 people to do this.
But Rob, it's not even that. We have almost no administrative jobs, so for firefighters, so police department has a whole series of police officers that do administrative jobs, and during recruitment period, they start to free up time from their normal duties and are able to help the Fairfield Police Department with recruiting, and we don't have that luxury either.
So It is a work in progress. We've been trying to penetrate Fitness Edge for recruitment efforts. I've been doing some informally in the locker room as well. I don't know if I related the last time someone's, putting on a uniform square badge and he's going to work at as a security guard. I said, hey, we're giving a test. Are you interested? He goes, yeah, I just got out of the Marine Corps and I was looking for something to do. So I just got this job, but, I'm really interested. And so he applied. I mean, and a lot of it is word of mouth and that direct contact. And we've asked every member of the department to reach out to people that they know and that they come in contact with to recruit. So you will get better at it. It's baby steps. We have hired 2 women and we're very proud of that. And I think that they'll make great additions. The diversity challenge and, firefighters of color are a more difficult recruitment challenge for the department. But we continue to work at it and, we'll spend the next time. We're not going to wait till the month before. We'll work over to the next 2 years and programs like this will help.
Any other questions from the commission regarding recruitment for the chief?
Okay,
Chief, next subject.
EMS. Just want to give you an update. We do continue to maintain contact with AMR regarding recruitment, regarding EMS. They continue to report their on-time performance. We had dropped below the benchmark requirement of 90% on-time performance. We're consistently above 90%, just above 90%, 91 or 92. We have a follow-up meeting with them because at our last meeting in early January, we were looking, they were looking at providing a third ambulance in town. It wouldn't be a paramedic ambulance, but a third ambulance kind of takes some of the pressure off the 2 paramedic units. So we're going to follow up with them and we're going to maintain the contact. We have a dialogue and a rhythm to our conversations now and our engagement. We don't want to allow this to go negative. If we're having a hard time recruiting, they are having and we talked about it at previous meetings. So we'll continue to follow that and report back to you. And lastly, I have the budget. Sorry about the incorrect stapling on the lower right-hand corner. So we have a budget request of 3.67%. You will see a couple of payroll numbers, sick leave and vacation leave. We ran short in those lines last year. This year has been particularly tough and we are close to the edge on staying in the black. So we will, and the other issue is sending people to the fire academy and the cost of doing that. We had a far greater number this year and probably will next year of persons going to the academy. And so that training cost is in the budget. We use a 3-year rolling average for those 3 lines and adjust it in particularly with the academy cost for real world understanding. We project the art of that budgeting comes into play. And so the other items that are high, fees and professional services included. The
RMS is going to be changing.
Yeah, the records management system where you use for all of our records and reports. We have a new service that we'll have to pay for this coming year. There is also, I want to point out the capital. So typically we request somewhere between $100,000 and $150,000 a year in capital requests. You'll see items, 1 and 2 are typical of the annual, they're in every year's budget because it's regular replacement. This year, in concert with some of the technology upgrades for the building department and planning and zoning, we're incorporated in that software, permitting software. So we want some monitors to get rid of paper and stacks of plans that we have in the office. So buying a monitor for that. Some special equipment for spec ops and rescue equipment is included. 2 vehicles. We were hoping to get 2 vehicles out of the ARPA money. But what we need is not available in an electric vehicle, and ARPA is going to be dedicated solely for electric vehicles. So we will get 2 vehicles if this budget is approved. And lastly, there is a radio project that has been in the capital waterfall projection for at least 5 years. And this is to replace the legacy systems in the police department and the fire department. It's been put on hold perennially, and we have just run out of radios. We need to replace portables. We've delayed or deferred purchase and regular replenishment of our radios because we anticipate the radio project. While the radio project is waiting on some word of federal funding and grant availability. So we're not going to move forward on that town-wide until that question's answered. So in the interim, we have $125,000 in the budget. So that brings our capital budget up to $332,000, triple what we typically requesting. So that went to the Board of Selectmen. It's been approved by the Board of Selectmen, and it will go to the Board of Finance on March 22nd for their review, and then the RTM after that.
Questions for the chief on the budget? And also we had, when he spoke about the EMS AMR response time, I don't know if any commissioners have questions on that. Okay.
Budget's huge this year, though.
Ari?
I mean, the budget, there's some huge ask here in comparison, right?
Yes.
Do you foresee the BOF having any issues with any of?
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
Oh,
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, what's going to happen is they are going to say, Chief, can you
Live with one truck.
live with a little bit less? And my answer is going to be, this is what we asked for. We asked for what we need. We are driving 2008 Crown Victorias
Yes,
for a couple of the members of the department. They are unsafe in snow and ice.
They were a great
These
car,
are persons, they were a great car at the time, but don't drive them in the winter time. Yeah, they're gonna push back, and I'm gonna say this is what we need. You know, we have good rationale and justification for it. And
Can I ask a question?
sure,
The projections for the next year budget?
for vehicles,
No, just in general. I mean, can we pass any of this on, or can we show a savings in next year's budget that would help justify the board?
savings in,
Well, you're up almost 200% compared to every other year, it sounds like, so we could justify to the BOF that next year we're gonna be more in line. And
oh yeah, this is definitely a spike. So those 2 items that amount to $235,000 won't exist in next year's budget.
Right,
It'll go back to the traditional between 100 and 150,000.
okay, yeah. fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're not setting a new benchmark. Yeah, yeah,
Maybe you could demonstrate that to them.
right.
probably
Yep,
help.
that's a very good point. Thank you for that.
Any other questions? Alex, you good?
Yeah, if I can make a comment along Rob's lines, I think, that's the capital expenses this year, which I think are obviously higher because they're needed. And as the chief said, I think they've been pretty reserved in the past in terms of making asks unless it's absolutely needed. It's very clear this year. So while this year is capital heavy, I mean, I think we've seen a very clear case that we're short at least another fire inspector, if not 2. And there are absolutely no staff officers, which is insane. And the fact that they are able to run as lean as they are and get as much done as they can is a testament to all the officers in the department who are all wearing dual hats. So while I hear Rob on the savings, I think for next year, potentially on the capital side, if we're able to kind of reduce that next year, we'll see what the financial environment looks like. But I imagine we'd be wanting to make an ask next year for more personnel, just given, what we're seeing, increase in high rises, increase in responsibilities, no staff officers. And, I think there's a liability portion as well at some point that needs to be explained, potentially the Board of Finance and the RTM, if we don't have more fire inspectors coming in and the liability that creates. So, and then we're, it's a year out, we got plenty of time to discuss it, but since you asked the question, that's at least my thoughts anyway.
And I did ask our senior staff back in January when we first submitted the budget, because we had just hired a new inspector. It just came on in January. We didn't make an additional ask this year, but I asked the senior staff to start working on what would be an appropriate additional position. What would be the best approach and the most appropriate position to add to the department next year? And I can tell you that every division is asking for more help. So for admin, for training, for the fire marshal's office, we have needs in the suppression division, maybe not new positions, but certainly upgrade and upgrading a couple of firefighters or firefighters that staff the rescue and a ladder truck to officers' positions. So there's an officer on each piece. So there's a lot of competing demands for an additional position or upgrades for next year. And we've started that discussion now, because we have to come to consensus amongst ourselves and then start building the case for that over the course of the year.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right, Chief. I mean,
That comment.
yeah, thanks, Chief. I mean, that's kind of the way I felt as well. And I think, potentially a public education campaign, once that's ironed out what the department wants, coming from, commissioners or whoever else in the form of op-eds or whatever is necessary. Hey, we're going to be making an ask. This is public safety related. Nobody's looking for an extra case of pencils somewhere. These are positions that are necessary to ensure public safety, and particularly on the fire marshal side and the extra manning and staffing. So, once that's determined by you and the staff, what you think you need, Chief, we'll go to bat for whatever you need.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the chief? Deputy Chief, you're up.
So as we were speaking earlier, the ECC is open at Sacred Heart University. So far, most of the technology is working. We're still working on the fire station alerting system, putting the finishing touches on that. Westport will be coming at a later date. They have to migrate to the CAD, the next-gen CAD that we are using. So they need to get the combined Westport Fairfield CAD built so that they can start training in a training version of that, and then working alongside our dispatchers in a combined CAD program, computer-aided dispatch program, that is. We're working on some radio issues which were caused by Westport and Bridgeport going over to the state system. And these are the radios that we're talking about right here. We need to get some portables so that our units, when they go on mutual aid, they're able to talk to these other departments, which are our main mutual aid partners. They've already migrated to the state system, and we had thought that we were going to be there around this time also, but right now it's the project slowed down due to anything that we've done. But anyway, we're hoping that that project does continue soon. So, but in the
Does
meantime,
our need to expend money help provide an argument to get the other project straightened out?
No, it could hurt it. The exigency of the communications is, diminished when we get.
Well, I meant in terms of
So,
us not
the overall-
buying and them getting.
The
wrecked.
overall system needs to be done. The police department was even in worse shape than we were.
Right.
But, anytime you spend money, it's like it feels, the decision may feel like the pressure is off. The police department has requested, I think, 30 grand in their budget for radio replacement as well. But, the overall system, we are now the oddball in the state. I listened to, chiefs from all over the state at our monthly meetings, and they have all migrated to this, and many have migrated to the state system, and we're way behind.
How long would it take to migrate?
Well, it's
Joe?
the money.
Yeah, right. This is Joe's department, isn't it?
It is, but I've been trying to shy away from the subject.
As an industry expert, not as a department, not.
Okay,
having
as an
to do with
industry,
Fairfield.
Yeah, right.
there are two things that need to be done that we're dealing with right now with other door, is the supply of the equipment.
Sure.
We can't even get equipment.
Yeah.
We have stuff that's been on order for going on close to a year now.
Yeah.
That, you know, is promised to towns that they already put it in. We're dealing with federal funds that needed to be, you had to show your purchase by a certain time, and yet they don't have it. So they're losing, there's a chance some towns may lose federal money. Once the equipment is in, the migration is kind of quick. It can be done in anywhere from 2 to 6 months.
So 18 months from a time of decision.
Yeah, basically.
So
You got a contract
you
negotiation.
think this equipment that you're asking for in this budget, they won't get their hands on for a year?
Oh, no, this
No,
stuff,
not
this
this-
will, probably by September, October.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, let's put in next year's budget.
No, no. Because what we think is going to happen is all of a sudden that backlog,
Yeah. I
it's just
understand.
gonna, everyone's gonna get flooded.
Yeah, sure.
You're right, we're hoping. But that's,
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
So in September, theoretically, if we get this equipment, that they could have a backbone up and be operating by end of the year, first quarter 20.
sure. You know,
This
it's
isn't
just,
Bill, you said backbone, that kind of makes you sound like we're doing something to the system. We're just getting a couple portables, a handful of
Yeah.
portables, so that we can have on some key units who normally go from New
That's-
Jersey.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
that
this is
line
not
item
a
is here
system.
for $125,000.
Yeah, the system is 5 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, the system replacement is 5 million. And when we proposed it with adding DPW Health Department School System
Sure.
buses, and it's an $8 million project. So either we will move forward with a $5 million public safety project or an $8 million town of Fairfield all-in trunk radio system.
Yeah, I kind of understand that now. Thank you for clarification. So this $125,000 is for a handful of portable units.
Correct.
It's a stopgap in the meantime, and they still will be usable on the new system when it comes. These are, it's the
They're
type.
compatible. I
right.
understand.
After the meeting, if you want to have a discussion on communications, I can give you a rundown on the different
Well,
things.
you're making a racket, right? I gotta get the communications games. 3 of these things are $125,000. Yeah, I'd like to have a conversation.
I just want to talk about the technology part of it.
Okay,
Okay?
I'm sorry.
We will talk about technology.
Sorry.
So Deputy Chief, next.
Okay, so CERT will not be here tonight, but as far as emergency management, there's CERT class for initial basic training. They've got a class going on right now, February 26th. It was the first Saturday, and the chief and I taught that first class. For Saturdays until March 26th, there's 15 students. There's CERT activations, which the chief just signed this week for traffic training class. They always get activated even for training. They've been asked to help.
Avoid Reef and Oldfield on that Saturday when they're training.
Which Saturday?
That is the 9th.
I went to the dump one year and I regretted it.
The 9th of April. The
I'm sorry?
9th of what?
The 9th of April, I think. Is it 9th? Is that a Saturday? So, and then the Parks and Rec Beach Money race, they've been asked to help with traffic and, order at that. And also the half marathon, which is coming up in June. We just cut a PO on the dividers for Station 3. As we had said, we've done a project at Station 1 to make cubicle dividers. It will help, because right now it's Station 3, it's too bunks right next to each other, just to give a little bit of privacy. So we're, first we're putting carpet, which looks somewhat like this carpet here. They're carpet squares. And then we're putting the dividers in. If anybody wants to see the one station one, they did come out very nicely. We've been approved by all town bodies in our request for non-recurring capital monies for, we applied for an AFG, an Assistance for Firefighters Grant, which I think I might have mentioned to you all, but so we needed to okay the local share because we have to pay the 10% if we are successful in getting this grant. So I was on a call today where they said that it's in process, and it's usually kind of a rolling answer of who is getting the grants, but that will start late April, early May. So, and it will probably go for months, some months afterwards. So, so we're hopeful that we will get the grant. It's requesting a total of $358,000 we need to expend. So we're having the town pay like $116,000 of that, and we're hoping everything will work out well. But at least the town bodies will approve the monies that we need for our local share. And that's the conclusion of my report.
Okay, I have no correspondence from Southport, and I don't see them online. I have no correspondence from Stratfield. I don't see them online. Local 1426.
Sure. I'm gonna be a little bit more long-winded than normal tonight because we have some issues that will involve everything that you already talked about. So I'm gonna start off with the testing process. We agree with the chief and I think with the majority of the commission that we have a diversity problem. We recognize that on the international level. We had recently had a human relations conference. And we got together to talk about it. Now, fortunately, when we get together to talk about it in the international, it's a bunch of people who look just like me, talking about people that don't look like me. What we tried to find is stumbling blocks. Where are the blocks that keep diversity out? The first one, we just go by sex. It's the CPAT. The CPAT is designed and is made to keep women out of the fire service. It's the military, the police department, everybody else in the world uses an age and sex-based test. We do not. We changed it. We lost a couple of court cases. We changed it a little bit more, and then we kept it the way it was. The problem in Connecticut is exactly what the chief addressed. The testing process is outside. It's in Meriden, which is not accessible by many public transportations. It is held, so it's held usually during the week. There's a couple of weekends, but some of the times are during the week. So if you're an hourly worker, you take the day off from work, oops, it got too hot. Day's canceled, come back another day. You lost a day's pay and however it took you to get over there. It's too cold, it's canceled. It rained, it's canceled. There's, I think, altogether, and I could be wrong, I think there's about 8 times a year that they use it. Now you compare that to Florida, where they put them in community colleges, they're inside, they run them 6 times a week, every week, all year long. So anybody can go, anybody can practice. To go down there and get a month's worth of time at the facility is less than it is to take 3 chances here in Connecticut. It's a recipe for failure, and they're doing just about nothing to address it and have been for years. The second thing would be that we lack diversity in people of color. 2 things there. One, the shame of that is that for people who were named Dunn, McCarthy, and Tuttle, 100 years ago, we were the lower socioeconomic class. And these are the jobs that took us out of that. You read the history of how those immigrants became middle class was civil service jobs, right? It got us solidly middle class. It made us part of the society and gained us recognition where before we were pushed out. So our problem is socioeconomics more than there is also a diversity in that if you don't see people like you who do something, you don't think that you can do it. But the socioeconomic part, a big problem for us, a big stumbling block for us in places like us is the EMT. it's 60% of what we do. We can't get rid of it. I completely understand that. And that's not what I'm saying. But what happens is if you take someone who makes 20 or 30,000 or $40,000 a year, which in Connecticut is, I would argue, poverty level wages, and say, hey, if you take this class for $1,500, you might get a job if you pass the class and you pass 2 tests that you also pay $100 for, and then another $150 for the practical. And the costs line up that it becomes prohibitive to get that job. And that's why you might see where Bridgeport doesn't have that, they have the advantage over us in getting, I think that's a huge part of getting people of color, is that job is more attainable. You take a test and you can get in. Now, it still works against women, but at least on the socioeconomic scale, it's not prohibitive as far as that goes. I think that something that going forward that we should look at is a lower no-cost EMT program. We'll really try and push EMT because that's a way we could get more people in. Lastly, before I get off that subject, would be the fire academy. They do a great job. They're in Massachusetts essentially, and you live there. So if I'm a single dad, I can't just leave my house for 16 weeks and just disappear. The last class was literally locked in from Sunday to Friday. You couldn't have a visitor and they can't leave. Some people just can't do that. And that's a huge problem. And I've talked to people in Bridgeport, like Lieutenant Moore, the chief had mentioned, and said they can't just take off for 16 weeks and just disappear from their family because they have obligations that they have to meet. And that's another big stumbling block. That was our opinion. That was all the stuff that we had on hiring and hopefully where we can get better. We talked about capital.
Before we go into your next subject, I do have some questions. You said, and talking about the CPAP,
Yes.
okay, you said they are doing nothing. Who is they?
The state.
Okay.
The state
This-
actively works again. If you said you wanted to see, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago,
So
perhaps. we talked
the
to Chief
Connecticut
Bissett
Fire
about it.
Commission?
Yes.
Okay.
We talked about, when this was getting done over, so it would have been actually when Chief Tracy was here, even before Chief Bissett took
Mhm.
over. We talked about it and they went, oh, no, you're not putting the CPAC center down there. That's ours. It's their racket. That's exactly what it is. They don't want to give up their racket. If you have 8 of those around here, everyone doesn't have to come and give them the $175. And they're not willing to give that. So, yes.
So that's Meriden or that's the state?
Meriden is where it is.
I
It's the state.
understand.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. The state runs it.
But wouldn't the state still see the 175 even if they came here?
Yeah, then they'd have to pay over here though and over there. And if they keep it congealed, then they can keep all of the money coming in. I think there should be 18 of them around the
Sure.
state. And the community colleges are a great place to do it.
Sure, agree.
Because it's also a great workforce to get to go after. You know, there's a lot of those kids that are going in there to get their associates in fire science. And if you can put them right through the CPAC, keep moving along, we'd have a stream.
Not to interrupt you, but
Oh, no.
I understand. I think getting anything done at the state level would almost be impossible. But what I found more interesting was the EMT side of things that you claim 60% of, and I agree with you. And Bridgeport has a different hiring system than Fairfield does, is that what you're
Yes.
saying? So Fairfield controls that destiny?
They do. We're just, the difference between us and Bridgeport is that the balance of EMS here versus what the fire department does EMS wise there, it's greater here. You're taking 3-man engine companies, which we have, it's on the list of things to get to. But when you have that, we need EMTs on there because we're going as first responders on every.
I understand.
It's a prerequisite to employment in Fairfield. It's not a prerequisite to employment in Bridgeport. So you have to have your EMT, as Bill had pointed out.
But in Bridgeport, you don't.
You do
No.
not. Correct.
And do you see changing? Do you want to change that?
So it's a financial calculus. What we did is we looked at, what was the difference between diversity in the no prerequisite list and the diversity in the.
Sure, I understand that.
And there was not a significant difference. Now, that's not to say that we couldn't do better. If you take more barriers you take away,
Yes.
the better you're gonna do. But list to list, there was a slight difference, but it wasn't appreciable.
Well, and the potentially better solution is solve the EMT process by creating classes, potentially doing it in high school, solve the ride-along problem, and create a pipeline that meets a bunch of society issues, because we also need a pipeline towards paramedics that we don't need, but the ambulance service.
Yeah, I understand, sure, got it. Okay,
Capital expenses, through no fault of the chief or the current administration. But these capital expenses have been hanging over our head for the 20 years that I've been here. We're working out of the same 5 buildings that were habitated when I got here. As hard as everyone's worked to keep them up, there's still buildings. Station 3 was built as a temporary building. That was how long ago?
20 years ago, it was supposed to be a five-year fix.
I think the building came up in the 80s. I'm like you, Joe. I think that 30 years ago was 1970.
Yeah,
Right, after we switched millenniums, I stopped counting too, but I think that building closer to 50 or 60. And with that, it wasn't made for that. And we can keep throwing this, and sooner or later, someone's got to pay the piper. And so when you see these big capital expenses come up, it's really just, it's not a function of what we're doing now, it's a function of what's not been done
deferred
continually
maintenance,
forever.
if you will.
Right.
Yeah, but when you see it go up 200% in a year, apparently it's going to get,
Worse.
yes.
When you look at Station 4, I mentioned it, I've mentioned it in a bunch of meetings. Station 4 is an embarrassment, is a disgusting building that the school department wouldn't keep mops in. If I control the heat in the lieutenant's office by how far I open the door from the furnace, that's the heating system, is when the furnace turns on for the rest of the building, if I open the door in certain amounts, that's how warm I get my office. Because there's no heat.
How far open?
I put tape on the floor a few times so that I can measure it exactly right. It's a science.
Well, and if you drive around the state on the local roads and look at the age of fire houses elsewhere,
Sure.
ours are decades, if not half centuries older.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
we've taken a pride.
I've seen Norwalk.
It works against us in that we take a pride in tradition to a degree. And we do a lot of station maintenance in-house. We're there all the time. So we treat it like it's our house.
Right.
We throw a coat of paint on, we fix a sink, we do those things where if it breaks somewhere else, they just go, hey, you need a new sink, and that's all there is to it. You don't, most people, teachers don't go fix sinks. They have to buy pencils and stuff. They got their own problems, but they don't have to fix sinks, and that's what we do. Along the budget, we talked about, Alex had brought up that our fire marshal's office is understaffed, that we all agree on that too. Suppression had been mentioned. Our suppression levels are below national standards. We don't meet I have a GIS study coming on to show you that we don't meet the standards in 2 major parts of town. And we're building more and more multifamily buildings. In 2016, the NFPA came out with the revised 1710. At one of those buildings that they're building now, the minimum first alarm assignment is 28 firefighters. We have 23. That means that no matter what we do, we can't meet that standard. And sooner or later, we've got to adjust. We can't just keep adding buildings and people to town and not make up for it on the other way. It's no different than water systems will have to change and sewer systems will have to change. It's the same exact. And lastly, from a global point of view, is we found out recently that the town had been having their safety committee meetings. This came to light as we were talking about communication issues, and we have some serious safety concerns about mutual aid when we don't have communications. We met with the chief. We put together a stopgap that I think is going to be work for us for the time being, and we're going to have our own fire department safety committee that will be putting up. But the risk manager who just left, hadn't had a meeting since 2019. It's required to have quarterly meetings that include minutes and a whole bunch of other things, and it hasn't been taken care of at all. So we're going to address that internally for now, and hopefully the town will be addressing it externally as they go forward with the human resources changes. That's it for me. I got questions though.
Does that lady have a hand up?
Let's keep.
Oh, no, it's just a
Oh,
hand.
that's the cursor? Is that the cursor?
Oh, yeah, no, that's a Caitlin.
I mean,
Does she have a?
Oh, no, that's.
Okay, yeah,
Oh,
I
I
was
thought
making
she
sure
had
she had a
a- I was
question.
like, oh my
That's
gosh,
all.
I've been doing that for a while.
Okay.
The one thing I would say is you're preaching to the choir here,
No, I know.
that we need troops at the hearings,
Yes.
making public statements. We need help in telling the story beyond this.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm in agreement with everything you said.
Thank you.
How have you been received in terms of asking for more help from firefighters when you've gone through, when they're doing the buildings conservations?
When we've asked for staffing, we've been denied it.
No, like you said, you need 28 for these new buildings. and
Yes.
23. So the new buildings popping up.
Yeah.
So how are you received? when you go to the meetings in terms of-
Poorly,
Really?
we,
very-
No, you've addressed the safety concerns. These are
Yeah.
safety concerns.
staffing is included in our collective bargaining agreement, and we've never successfully argued for it in, we've
So how do they
lost
just,
every time.
I mean, it presents a danger to the town of Fairfield if you don't have enough firefighters to respond
Yes, ma'am.
in case.
And to us,
Right, of course, yeah. So,
yeah, no,
yeah.
we'll keep fighting,
Okay.
but thank you.
Beverly, I think a good example is the fire marshal office. We've been arguing for years and it took us 4 years, 5 years to get one, and we need at least a minimum of 2 additional fire marshals and maybe more than that, which was what Alex was referencing, and that's the only staff hired. We've gotten in.
Speaking of that, I mean,
It's the
that's
only
a
staff
place
hired
where
we've had since I joined the commission.
NFPA standards are guidelines. I would argue that when something bad happens, that's what a jury will use to determine what you're supposed to do. But for the fire marshal's office, they actually don't meet legal statutory obligations. They're required by law to do things that they just can't do.
So this is suggestions essentially.
Those, like, minor suggestions, but the fire marshal's office is the law.
No,
We're not complying with that.
But it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You're behaving as if it is.
Yes.
Just.
Well, they're doing the best there's only so many hours in a day, and that's where they're stuck. But
Yeah.
the fact of the matter is when tragedy strikes, and it will,
That's my point.
the excuse can't be, we tried.
No, of course, it would be the town.
Yeah, how does staffing affect the budget?
Gigantically.
Yeah, no, I
93%
understand.
of the budget.
I understand. Yeah, I get it, so I think that's, we're hitting them now with the 200% increase, and on top of it, we need staffing as well. Which would, right? Back to Joe's radios, it sounds like you could buy 1 truck you get a radio and a half for 1 truck. I'm kidding, I'm sorry. I'm
Right.
sorry.
Seems to me we need to plot out a whole strategy for the next year. In a formal plan of how what research we're gonna have, which you mentioned, and what's the
All right, thank you.
education, public media education process between now and next year.
I have a
There's no
question.
motion, but I second, even though there's no motion on the floor, I second his comments.
Thank you, Alex.
So wait a minute, do you have a motion?
I didn't make it a motion. I'm not sure we need to do it at the time. I think the chief heard us and we can not put it as a motion at the moment, but we've got a strong consensus and we'll work with you. And if you want to do some strategy sessions, we'll do some strategy sessions the way we did on trying to ramp up the diversity recruiting.
Okay. I have a question
Yes, sir.
for you. How's your contract negotiations going?
We're currently in arbitration. We have 3 arbitration hearings set for the end of this month, the end of April, the end of May.
In your proposal
Yes.
with that, because then the town is obligated to it. Is there an increase in manpower in it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So
Yeah, no,
Now it's up to the arbitrator.
yeah, it's a difficult one to win an arbitration, but we have the evidence. It's gonna be,
Can I,
cost.
can I ask what type of personnel increase you're looking for?
It's to NFPA standards, so it'd be four man apparatuses.
Okay,
So it would be 4 people in every truck. The increase would be 7 per shift. And we like, in our dream world, there's officers on the trucks because we exceed our span of control.
Right.
Units.
I,
21 new hires.
20, yeah, it would be 21 new
so
hires.
that's what you're asking for.
No, that's just on the line. Which would be, we're 93% of the budget for manpower. We hire them cheaper, so that's kind of good. So the first couple of years, but it'd be a 20% increase in the budget. Overall, like the entire budget.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a lot of money.
I get it. Yeah. But at least it's going to arbitration, right? I mean,
We'd rather not.
I understand, but
Yeah.
like,
Arbitration's expensive for everyone, and the thing is that the scary part of arbitration for us and the town is that the
Is that
arbitrator,
in our packet?
for those of you who don't know, I haven't been to arbitration, the arbiter can't split the baby. There's no
compromise.
Solomon solution to it. So if I say I want 28 guys, the town says I want 6,
Yeah.
he doesn't get to say, nah,
Make it
20
12.
is about the right thing. He has to pick one or the other. I say he because I know who the neutral arbiter is.
Yeah, I understand. So what's the town offering?
They don't have a change to, there's no change to
Employment.
staffing.
Oh, yeah, that's gonna be
You want
really large.
21 and they want 0.
We want 28. They'd like, I think they'd like to have less, but I think that their plan is to keep it at the staffing that's current.
That's what I mean. You don't want it.
Yeah, so it'll be, we want to go to 28. They'll want to stay at 23.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Old business, charter revision. I know Mr. Brennan had some stuff on that. Do you have something to report?
I put in a call to Jim Baldwin to confirm that he's going to pursue it. In fairness, I put in that call today, so I did not hear back today. But hopefully I'll hear.
So we'll keep this on the agenda for
Yeah, I mean,
next month?
until we get a
Yep.
resolution, this is a big deal.
Yeah, and those have been some of the other meetings I've been watching
Yeah.
too. Okay, new business, the only thing I have under new business is donation in our packet. There was a check from Sulak, Don Sulak. And I'd like a motion to
So
accept the donation. Motion made by Commissioner Brennan, seconded by Liam. All those in favor? Aye, opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Next thing that we have is executive session to hear and consider personnel issue regarding sick leave. Can I have a motion to go into executive session?
with all of those present, including the staff and union, because we have to specify who gets to go into executive.
Jude.
Not Jude.
Okay. So-
Jude will record what time we adjourn and any vote that is taken after we come back into session.
Correct.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and seconded to go into executive session. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. We are now in chief, we in executive session?
Okay,
Yeah, we gotta close the chair up.
Hold on, he's got to get his
We
recording.
got
back
to
on.
unmute Alex.
Excellent.
And we gotta get the recording on.
Yep, recording has started again. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to extend sick leave until the May 16th meeting for the firefighter in question.
May 12th,
Excuse me, May 12th. Thank you.
Good guy.
Okay, a motion
second.
has been made. Do I have a second?
Yep.
Seconded by Commissioner Brennan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously.
Let's know who did the motion to go into executive session. Jude didn't get who gave it and who seconded it.
You made it.
I'm fine.
Dorothea made it.
And Liam second.
Okay, thank you.
You're gonna take care of giving it to her?
I will.
Okay. 8:05 and 8:13 out.
If we're still on new business, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to introduce a new item, if that's acceptable.
We can go back to new business.
There we go. Yes, sir. All right. I'd like to take on as another project, since we took a look at our hiring process, and particularly in light of diversity and issues around that. I think we came out with a pretty decent report. I would like to take up the next item and formally introduce a Manpower Study, taking a look at some of the issues that were raised this evening around the fire marshal's office, staffing, and those types of issues in preparation for next year's budget. So to go ahead and do the research and prepare a background paper for the commission, if that's acceptable.
Sure.
All right. Thank you very much.
Happy to help in any way I can.
The help would be welcome. Thank you.
If I may, I'll offer everything that we have. We have a study that.
Louder.
We have a study that's going to be done soon. We'll.
Please share.
I'll give it to anybody who wants to see it.
Mhm.
Excellent. We'll incorporate whatever findings that is then into the information for the commission, and then we'll come back to the chief and to the union here with what our findings are, similar as how we did, I think, for the diversity report, unless chief, unless you have different guidance.
No, I think that would be very helpful. And as I said earlier, the senior staff is looking at it, and I think that there's a pure manpower issue that the union has presented. There is also, I think, the chairwoman, the former chairwoman, commented about admin staff, and that's another. The Bill commented about the one-armed paper hanger that is our training director, and Joe commented, the chairman commented on the fire marshal's office, and those are all of the areas that are screeching for help. We're not going to get it all. We may not get any of it, but I think that if we don't do anything, we'll be no better next year at this time than we are right now.
And I'm planning on going down swinging.
Just a clarification, if I may, with the union, are you not only looking at standards, but what other departments that are comparable to us do as
Yes.
part of your study?
Oh, yeah,
Okay, thank
and that's included in arbitration as well.
okay. Just
Yeah.
wondering how much of a gold mine we're gonna get in terms of data that we can use.
Oh, yeah. No, you'll know what their data is all statistics driven. So it'll be specific to Fairfield. If you ask 2 seconds, but aside, the first time I did this for a Manpower Study, they looked at the northeast corner of town when I had the study done, and the technology wasn't as good as it is now, where they can plug in like who lives there and how many times we went to there, all the other stuff. And she looked at the map, it just shows from where our stations are, what you cover. She said, up here in this corner, what is this, like big open space? I said, almost. It's GE's world headquarters, a university, a divided highway, a high school, and 3 nursing homes. She said, are you out of your mind? I said, nope. She said, there's no coverage. We don't. What happens? We get lucky. And that's where we're at.
Right. Right. No, what I was thinking, if you look around for other businesses I've used, Fairfield is comparable to West Hartford. And so we look at, and particularly as you think about administrative staffing, part of what I was trying to clarify is you may need to start to take on the research for administrative staff, comparable departments, so that we have both pieces.
And we're willing to, we have the good news about our international is that we have staff for that. I'll avail myself of anything that I can, and they usually.
That would be helpful.
Okay. Next item is public comment. We have no public here, so.
Is Jude gone?
Yeah, Jude's gone. Yep. Item 10, to hear and act upon any other business that shall come before us this meeting. Nothing. Item 11, adjournment.
Motion,
Motion made and seconded.
Liam's the second.
Yep.
And the time.
On behalf of the local
Voting?
body, thank you very much.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so I will.